Hello, this is Emily. Welcome back to my channel, and it's finally that time of month again where it's time to film my reading wrap-up. In the month of August, I did a lot better than my previous reading month. I ended up completing 4 books by physically reading them. I listened to 8 books on audio, and I read 10 mangas, bringing my total to 22 books read this past month, which is a big plus because I have a large TBR and a lot of books I gotta get off of that TBR. So I'm going to go over this giant stack that's sitting out of frame here and just kind of give a brief overview of what I thought of the book and stuff. And I guess let's just hop right on in. I'm going to start off with The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. It's a mystery thriller, which is not a genre I usually read, and I did feel parts of the plot were pretty predictable, which is why it only got 2 stars from me. I tackled Skullduggery Pleasant this month by Derek Landy, and unfortunately I only gave it 2 stars. I tried to get into it, I just couldn't. I think it's because it's middle grade, and I've not a genre I typically read, so unfortunately this was only 2 stars for me. I still think it's an interesting story. It's just a series I probably don't plan on picking up again. However, if you have little ones or you love reading middle grade, you probably would enjoy this. The next book I'm going to talk about is a book that rolled over from my July TBR and took me a little bit over a month to read, but I mean, granted, it's a chunker, and that's IQ 84 by Haruki Murakami. This isn't my favorite work of his, but I still did enjoy it and loved the twists and turns, but it was only a 3-star read for me. I think it's because it was such a huge book to tackle, and I felt some parts of it just dragged on. Like, there were some great, like, really interesting sections, and then some sections I was just like, okay, hurry up, let's move on with the plot, and that's why this only got 3 stars from me. The Space Between Worlds is another 3-star read for me. This is a parallel universe style sci-fi, and I thought it started out pretty strongly. However, I felt the ending was really rushed, so that's why I only gave it 3 stars. Become You Volume 1 was another 3-star read for me. I don't typically read contemporary manga, however, I have enjoyed Ichigo Takana's previous works, so I wanted to check this one out. However, it wasn't my favorite works of theirs, and that's why I only got 3 stars. On the roll of 3-star reads, Black Torch Volume 2 was another one of those. I like the direction the story is going, however, parts of it I felt were lagging in this. That's why I only gave it 3 stars. This next read is another 3-star read for me, and it was another one that started out very strongly and then kind of tapered off at the end, and that is Descendant of the Crane by Joanne He. And I really enjoyed the beginning of the story. However, I felt there were some loose ends that we really didn't get quite tied up at the end, and the ending itself was very rushed, and there were a lot of parts of this that were kind of predictable, being a historical, like, murder mystery political style read. However, it was still an enjoyable read. It's just the predictability parts of it kind of lowered my star rating. The next book I read was Children of Time by Adrian Chavowski. This was a 4-star read for me. I really did enjoy the narrative and the way it made you think. This is a space type sci-fi spanning like several years, where we're following the fallen human race as they try to make home somewhere else and not go extinct. However, the home that was set aside for them turns out to be inhabited by super intelligent spiders. So, very interesting read, and I really loved seeing these 2 societies and their evolution, and then once they came together, how they interacted and all that. But it's a great read and very thought-provoking if you're looking for a nice sci-fi. Next book is My Hero Academia Volume 1. I have watched the anime all the way up to the most current release episode, and I've been wanting to read the manga, so I'm finally getting around to reading them. This was 4 stars for me. Really enjoyed it. and I'm excited to read the print versions of what I've already watched. The next book we're going to talk about is Barman in My Tub, Volume 8. This is the final volume of Barman in My Tub. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I was kind of shocked to see that the manga just suddenly ended. However, granted that there was such a big gap between this volume and the previous release volume, I'm just guessing the author ran out of ideas, or the manga itself got discontinued and they let them write a final volume just to kind of tie up loose ends and stuff. But this is a very cute slice of life type manga dealing with this high schooler who finds a dehydrated merman and ends up bringing him in, and the merman starts living in his bathtub. So very interesting read, and it's a very cute story. Speaking of finales, next book I'm going to talk about is Anyway the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. Unfortunately, this book is kind of tapering in between 3 and 4 stars for me, but I'm leaning more towards giving it a 3-star rating just because of the story itself. I really enjoyed Carry On. Wayward Son was nice. However, this book, for as much and how thick it is, there wasn't really much of a plot. Now, the issues between Simon and Baz were resolved and stuff. However, I felt like everything that happened in the second book was just kind of brushed aside once they returned to England and wasn't really spoken of again. So I wasn't too pleased about that. Still, I'm glad that this was an enjoyable read for me. It was really easy to read. Chapters were short and stuff. It's just I wish more was done, and it just kind of felt like this was just thrown together just to kind of finish off the series. And that's why it leans more towards a 3-star rating for me. Flash Fire by TJ Clune was a 4-star read for me. I really liked the sequel and all the twists and turns that were revealed here, and I'm excited to see what the next book brings, especially with that nice little revelation at the very end of this book. I want to see what's going to happen now that that character was revealed and all that. But enjoy this read, and looking forward to read anything else that he publishes. The next book I read, it's literary fiction, which is a genre I don't typically read, and it's also one of the books that was on my list of 12 books I need to complete before the end of the year, and that is The Chiselers by Brendan O'Carroll. This is following Agnes Brown and her children growing up in the Irish slums back in the 70s. It's a very entertaining read, and I love how we see their lives and kind of what they're doing. It's kind of a slice of lifey type stuff, but it's a great read and really quick and short. The Near Witch by Victoria Schwab was a 4-star read for me. This is her debut novel, and it's following this small town, and the children are disappearing at night, and the stranger kind of shows up in this town, and they blame the stranger for the disappearance of the children. And what's her name? Lexi. Sorry, so many books on the name start running together. One tries to set out to prove that this stranger is innocent and get down to the bottom of why the children are actually going up missing. But it was a nice read and a great debut work. I ended up reading volumes 9 through 12 of Yonah of the Dawn. Volumes 9 and 10 were 5-star reads for me, and 11 and 12 were only 4-star reads. These were all rereads. I've read the series once before, and now I'm rereading it. And I think the reason I dropped a rating for volumes 11 and 12 was because there was a lot of short stories tied on, kind of breaking up the main plot of the story. That's why they dropped a star. Still love the story and love the read, and I'm really enjoying this whole reread experience with this manga series. The next books I'm going to talk about are Vagabond volumes 5 and 6. These are both 5-star reads for me, and I really love the story. This is a historical fiction following some of the greatest swordsmen in Japan and kind of their lives as they kind of battle out to see who's the best and all that. And I really love the read, really beautiful artwork, and I'm excited to continue on with this series. The next 5-star read I had was The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Tawny Man trilogy, and like book 8 in her whole collective series, and I really did enjoy this book. This had a much happier tone, it felt like, compared to the previous book, because in her previous book I broke down in tears crying. So I like that this one had a bit brighter stuff. It was more like kind of a building up to what's happening, so there wasn't really a lot of sadness here. However, I do feel that the final book in the Tawny Man trilogy is probably going to have me in tears too. But at least we had a little break from all the sadness with The Golden Fool. The final book I'm going to talk about, there is a trigger warning here for depression and suicide, just so you know. This was a 5-star read for me, and that's The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book is following Nora, who is very dissatisfied with her life and ends up, after an attempt, being kind of in this mysterious place between life and death, where there's all these books where she can pick different lives to live. And we kind of follow Nora through all these different lives to see if she finds a place where she'll be happy, or if she'd rather end up being dead. That's why it is a very thought-provoking read. Nora's a very relatable character, but I do want to stress that it is a very trigger warnings type book if you are sensitive to this topic. But it's still a 5-star read, and I highly recommend this. This is probably one of my favorite books I read so far this year, and I really enjoyed it and how thought-provoking it was. But great read overall. Well, that's all the books I'm going to talk about today in my reading wrap-up. I feel like I did kind of breeze through them. However, there was a lot of books to go over, and I felt like if I went too in-depth, we'd be here all night, and I don't have time for that. I'm already filming this after work, so I'm a little tired. But anyways, I guess that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to click the like and subscribe button down below, and I hope to see you guys next time.